Good morning. Good morning. My name is Dr. Robert Bullard. I am the Dean of the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs at Texas Southern University here in Houston, Texas. First, I want to thank the EPA for holding this hearing and allowing the public to speak. It is also significant where this hearing is being held in Region 6, not in Dallas, but here in Galena Park, in a refinery community that typifies why these proposed rules changes are desperately needed. I have to ask what took so long. That is a rhetorical question. We all know the answer. For the past 3 decades, I've worked with residents who live in fence line communities near refineries in California, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and Texas. I've traveled in dozens of these communities and have seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears too many horror stories, enough to fill at least a dozen of my books. Fence line communities have waited for years for meaningful federal protection from pollution from these refineries. Many state environmental agencies have failed miserably in providing this needed protection. Many environmental justice communities have little confidence in the states to lead on refinery emission reduction. That's why what is being proposed by the EPA is really a big deal. Many of us had hoped the agency would have gone even further. Nevertheless, I strongly support EPA's effort to move forward instead of backward when it comes to refinery emissions. Residents who live on the fence line with these refineries have a right to know what they are breathing and how these chemicals may affect their health. These residents also have a right to be protected from harmful chemicals. Refineries are not randomly distributed across the American landscape, and most Americans don't live next to one of them. So for too long, the problems, concerns, and challenges of fence line communities have been somewhat invisible and ignored. We all wish emission controls and level of protection were such that the refinery CEOs and their spouses, children, and grandmothers would feel safe living next door. However, we know they don't live next door, but we know who do. Refineries in the Gulf Coast, in Louisiana, petrochemical corridor, whether in Port Arthur, in Houston, or Corpus Christi, the people who live in those communities do not look like America. They are overrepresented with communities of color, low-income families, children, individuals who don't have health insurance, and oftentimes people who are unemployed, who could walk to work and cross the fence. But oftentimes the jobs are not for the people who are impacted negatively by these facilities. This is not a pretty picture. EPA should not allow any families, and especially innocent children, to be overburdened with pollution and their neighborhoods to become toxic sacrifice zones. In evaluating risk, EPA needs to emphasize cumulative risk. The communities that we're talking about are not healthy communities. Their health is being challenged. And so any measures that we're talking about, metrics, have to take that into account. These communities can't wait for justice. They can't wait for health protection. They need it now. They have been waiting too long. The proposed rules would require, for the first time, to measure concentration of benzene on the fence line. This is a good start, but it's only a start. We need more chemicals. The EPA should require fence line monitoring that mandates the best current technology to give neighborhoods a real-time, continuous measure of pollution and not just a snapshot. To be effective, the standards also must be accessible to the public, enforceable, and requiring corrective action to be taken quickly to fix violations. These new requirements would also
mandate refiners to upgrade pollution controls for storage tanks and to ensure that gases are properly destroyed through flaring. We all know that there is a flaring game going on. And finally, we are pleased that EPA has committed to undertaking this long overdue rulemaking, and we urge the agency to use this authority to ensure equal protection from pollution for all Americans. Thank you very much.